Hello, everyone, and welcome back to 2019 at a Glance. This is part 2, so if you haven't seen part 1 already, go back, go into the description box below, and click on that first video. So, with that being said, let's get right into it.
And
That's
with that, I feel like we can move on to what was the next set? M20?
I believe
I
so.
think it was M20. Yeah, M20 is the next set. Yeah, because Modern Horizons came out in June, and then M20 came out in July. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a spell book in there, but oh well.
It, I don't know. Signature Spellbook Gideon. There's some good cards in there, I guess. Good. Path to Exile. We just talked about it. Rest in Peace. Good Graveyard Hate. If you want to learn more about it, go check it out. But like M20, I feel like M20 really fell flat. Is it just me? Like
No, it's not just you.
like not to say that there weren't some notable cards from M20 because there were, and I feel like the first one we should start off talking about is Yarok the Desecrated, where it's basically Sultai Panharmonicon. Um, it has the Panharmonicon text where it says if a I think it just says creature. I'm not sure. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up. A permanent entering the battlefield causes the ability of a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger it. It triggers an additional time. So it's a lot better than Panharmonicon actually because it doesn't just trigger off artifacts and creatures. Um, I feel like this was a slam dunk. I feel like this was a really good, well designed card for Commander because it was clearly designed for Commander. Um, I don't know what else more to say about it than it's good. Like if you were gonna choose a Sultai commander to play, I would highly recommend Yarok. Um, take advantage of those good enter the battlefield effects, and even I guess in turn death trigger effects if you were gonna build it that way. Maybe build it a little
Yeah.
aristocraty.
One of the next cards that I think was definitely a fun commander, and I know you played him, is going to be our
Oh,
Bird
Kaikar! I
Wizard
forgot
Kaikar.
Kaikar was in this set.
Yeah, Kaikar is a legendary bird wizard with for 1 blue, red, and white. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying, and you can sack a spirit to add red. Is a 3/3.
This
You want to
card,
talk
this
about
card, yeah, this card's like combo central. At least that's how I play it. Um, you can play it like not combo-y. You can play like tokens, like Jeskai tokens. Um, I feel like Kaikar really lends itself to like the more combo oriented realm, just because he makes spirits, and so like if you're gonna play a token deck, then you have to have like spirit lords, and then you have to have like other like you almost have to have anthem effects because there's really not that many spirit lords. Um, there are some good spirits, but I wouldn't say necessarily all of them are like good in Commander because they're some of them were more designed for like a 1v1 standard type scenario. Some of the ones that we've seen in the past, like back in Estrad or Eldritch Moon or some of those other ones that we've seen. So I feel like Kaikar really lends himself to like the combo type player because of the whole limiting thing with spirits. Um, and the whole thing is Kaikar says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, so it has that same like problem that Narset has, that if you really want to take full advantage of the commander, you really shouldn't be playing that many creatures, if any. Um, yeah, like I used to have an Narset deck, and that was like the main problem is like you wanted to play creatures that were really good, but whenever you would attack with Narset and you'd peel the top four off your deck and you saw a creature, it just kind of felt bad. So I feel like Kaikar kind of lends itself to the same school of thought.
yeah, another kind of honorable or kind of honorable mention that we have here is a vampire staple that we got. Sorin Imperious Bloodlord.
This
I mean,
card's busted in any vampire deck, I'll tell you what.
yeah. As soon as he came out, I know about 3 people who all play vampire. They're like, I need this card. I absolutely, this card is so cool, so good. Like, so many people
There is
picked it up to play
nothing
vampires.
like a turn one Sorin, or I'm sorry, a turn two Sorin into um some big vampire fatty. Like I think I'm trying to remember what I cheated in, but I remember I went turn 1 Soul Ring, turn 2 Sorin, minus was it -3? I think
Yeah.
it's like -3 is his minus ability, but it's put target creature or put a vampire card from your hand onto the battlefield. And I put some like big vampire onto the battlefield, and everyone's like, "Oh well, pfft, you're dead, Cam," and I'm like, "Oh okay."
Yeah, we had a lot of different cycles. We had the Cavalier cycle, which honestly not that
Yeah,
great.
lackluster. Like when you compare him to like the Titan cycle, the Titans still see play in Commander. One of them's banned. Like I don't think they really shape up
Hold the
against.
candle. Yeah. We
Yeah.
had we had a cycle. We had the ley lines come back actually, which was really cool to see.
Yeah,
Um,
like Leyline of Anticipation being the big one, and then Leyline of the Void, obviously, if you really need to hate on graveyard decks. The other three weren't really that stellar, in my opinion. Giving yourself hexproof is okay if you get it for free. I wouldn't really necessarily pay 4 mana for it for an enchantment. Um, that's only because of the meta that I play in, but that doesn't mean the meta that you play in isn't. It doesn't really warrant it. You know, maybe you have some player running around with fireballs targeting you. Um, yeah, I don't really know other than like Leyline of
but
Anticipation being the blue one and then Leyline of the Void. Uh, I don't really have anything else to say on the
I mean,
Leyline
and
cycle.
I've seen a pretty like a lot of elf players I think are going to be running Leyline of Abundance because it turns all your creatures into land or elves basically, and then you can for 6 and 2 green put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. So if you're running like an elf deck that wants to go wide with it,
Almost
you know
any deck, any like token deck, kind of like that, like
yeah
green based. I feel like, yeah,
Leyline of but obviously there's Leyline of Combustion which is at best
yeah, it's
honestly,
just not that good.
but I don't know. M20 was sort of lackluster. There were some fun cards in there, but I don't know that there were, you know, super game breaking, best
Well,
commander we've seen in a long
there's
time.
one card before we move on from M20 because I feel like M20 was really kind of lackluster. But there's one card that I really want to highlight that I think that is in contention for the best card in the set, if not is the best card in the set. And it's Flood of Tears. It's 4 blue for a sorcery and return all non-land permanents to their owner's hands. If you return 4 or more non-token permanents this way, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. So not
Yeah,
only is it a board wipe, but then it's also basically like we mentioned way earlier with the expertise cycle, where you basically like you get an effect and then you get to put something onto the battlefield. But in this case, it's a board wipe, and then you immediately get the first play immediately after it, and you don't have to pay mana for it. So this card's really good. Um, I personally haven't been blown out by it or anything. I run it in like 3 decks, and I don't think I've ever cast it. But I think that's just some bizarre glitch in the Matrix RNG thing because I feel like I've never been put in a position where I've had to use it, or let alone have it in my hand.
yeah, but I mean, obviously we had like the three Chandras, and Chandra Awakened Inferno was obviously the best out of all of them. Being, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and Cameron, you could correct me here on this one. I think she's the only planeswalker that we have whose plus ability gives an emblem.
Um, yeah, I think so. I think she's
Yeah.
there. I can't think of any other planeswalker off the top of my head that like gives an emblem as like a plus. Other than like I had plus or minus ability, that's not the ultimate. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's the only one. She's good, but I don't know if she's that good in Commander because again, not to say that like giving them that emblem that gives them 1 damage every turn. Like if you can protect Chandra Awakened Inferno, she's really good because then every turn you're ticking it up and you're like, okay, you're gonna get an emblem, you're gonna get an emblem, and you're gonna get an emblem. Um,
Well, and the other thing that I think is kind of funny, you know, even like let's say you cast Chandra, whatever, you're able to use her +2 once, maybe twice. Even if you get taken out of that game, that emblem's still gonna be there.
exactly. So
It's like
even
even
if
even
yeah
after death, you're just still inflicting damage.
yeah. And that's the thing is like of course there's exceptions, but I just think like I don't think we can build our whole case for her being good in Commander around the exceptions that,
Oh no, no.
well, if you can protect her, then no, yeah, obviously
Yeah,
she's
and
good.
I mean, and that's how everything works, you know. Like,
Yeah,
there's something that's good, and it's like if you protect it, it's better. Well, yeah,
like
and
that's just true for a lot, like everything.
yeah, you know, and so she's okay. I don't play her, but Chandra's
Yeah,
my favorite planeswalker, so I had to at least mention her.
yeah. Other than that, I really don't think that there's anything else in. I mean, there's a couple notable legendary creatures like Kethis the Hidden Hand that cares about legendaries and stuff. Um, and then obviously one of your favorite legendary creatures, Kalia, got a reprint, or not a reprint,
Yeah,
sorry, but like
a
a
new
new
card.
edition. Um, but I think we really like highlighted the cards that really made like an impact. I haven't seen like any of the cards that we haven't mentioned. I have to assume it's because I haven't seen them ever be played.
Yeah. All right, and that takes us next to probably the biggest thing that obviously that Commander players get every year is going to be Commander 2019.
Oh boy, Commander 2019.
I
Do I
mean,
do I have opinions about this?
I know that you do, so I'll let you go ahead and start, Cameron.
Okay, so my big thing with Commander 2019 is I feel like the decks were designed super well to go against one another. Like I feel that if you're gonna buy all four decks and then take them right out of the box, um, and play them against each other, you're gonna have a really good game. They're gonna be really balanced. They all have their own way to like either get ahead or like take deal with like threats of the other deck. I feel like very well balanced. However, the issue that about reprints is that there are some reprints in Commander 2019 that they're just they're not up there. They're not the level of quality of reprints that we want to see. Um, I'm trying to think of some of the like the reprints that we got. I think Avenger of Zendikar was reprinted in the token deck. Like you know, they are okay. So like I can think of a couple, but they're not the like when I think of reprints, these are not the reprints we want to see. Like Bounty of the Luxa from Amonkhet, that it basically it had like if you think about it, it's like a river flowing and overflowing, and when the river overflows, you get mana. But it has to do with like taking a flood counter off the enchantment, and then you get to draw a card. But then if there's no counters on so if there's no counters on it, you put a counter on it and draw a card, but then if there's no counter on it, you add 3 mana, 1 blue green. Like these are just not the kind of reprints we want to see. And then like there's another one from Ixalan, Boneyard Parlay. It's like exile up to 5 target creature cards from graveyards, and opponent separates them into 2 piles. Put all the cards from one pile of your choice on the battlefield under your control. It's like these are not the reprints we want to see. Bloodhall Priest from Shadows over Innistrad, I think. Okay, that's a bad example because it has madness, and we're really lacking in madness uh, madness cards in like as a general rule. Um, Given that the decks were built around these themes, you know, we got good reprints in the form of like Chaos Warp. Chaos Warp is obviously a red card staple that goes in every commander deck playing red. It's a removal spell, and it's a red staple. You should be playing it in every red deck because it's removal. We got some good land reprints like Cinderglade, which is the Zendikar. If it enters untapped, if you control 2 or more basic lands. Clever Impersonator, which is like the best clone card ever printed. For 2 blue, enters the battlefield as a copy of any non-land permanent on the battlefield. And these are just some examples of some of the cards that were reprinted. They're just not up there when you think about it. When you think about like Commander 2016, Commander 2016 is like widely accepted as one of if not the best Commander pre-constructed set ever constructed. Next to like the original Commander set with Animar and Kalia and whatever the Grixis one is, I forget, that had true name in it. Um, that had really good reprints. or like Commander 2016 did. Commander 2016 had like oh man, I'm blanking on this now. Uh, well, Commander 2016 had the partner commanders, which is a mechanic that's been beloved by everybody. It's one of the best commander mechanics they've ever made, and the whole community loves it. Um, the four color commanders, like obviously I'm having a little trouble here remembering some of the reprints, but it's just like there were some really good reprints and then there were some really bad ones from Commander 2019, and I feel like they did good. It was certainly better than Commander 2018, but I feel like it
Yeah.
could have been better.
Well, and obviously, like coming in from, I believe it was in the No, I think it's in Faceless Menace, the flip deck, the morph
Morph
deck.
deck.
I think a Seedborn Muse came in there,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that's obviously just a green staple that people love to see. We had a couple of pretty good planeswalkers that got reprinted. Vraska the
Yeah,
Unseen
there was
being
a
one of them.
planeswalker in every deck, wasn't there? There was
Yeah, I believe
Garruk,
so.
Vraska. Um, I don't remember who the Jeskai one was. Do you remember who the Jeskai one was?
Was it Rawls Eric?
It was Belzeric.
Yeah, and then Obnixilus being the
Yeah.
last one, I believe.
hmm
So we got some cool planeswalkers in there, and Voice of Many.
Yeah, like, I feel like unfairly dunked on Commander 2019. It was really good because we got some really cool new cards. We got like I feel like we mainly saw it from the Geared deck in regards to like some of the coolest new cards, like the one enchantment that says it's like 4 white, and whenever you cast a spell, populate. Like that's pretty good. And then there's another enchantment for like two hybrid Selesnya. That's the beginning of your upkeep, populate. And then there's a double X spell green sorcery that says populate X times. Like I feel like those are really good cards.
Yeah, and there's one card in here being one of the new cards that I think, I won't say it's one of the most powerful, but it definitely has one of the highest versatility cards that we've seen is going to be Kirk, Son of Yawgmoth.
Yeah,
Four,
yeah.
yeah, 4/3 Phyrexian black mana, so it can either be paid with a swamp or 2 life. It's lifelink. For each black pip in a cost, you may pay 2 life rather than pay that mana. And whenever you cast a black spell, put a 1/1 counter on Kirk, Son of Yawgmoth. Like, if you're playing mono black, you're running Kirk,
Well,
honestly.
you know what's really funny is for all the hype that this card got, I've only seen it once.
That's interesting. I think I only know one person who has a mono black deck that runs this, but I know that I've talked to people who say that they have run it. But seen played, I also agree. I've only seen him played once, but I think he was really good, and it
He
was
is really good. I like it's he's a good card, and like these are the kind of cards we want, like out of our new cards. But at the same time, we want the same quality that we're getting out of our new cards in our reprints.
yeah. Um, Honestly, I don't know. I think that Commander 2019 definitely stepped it up from the previous year.
Yeah, from the
Um,
disaster that was Commander 2018.
and I'm really happy with, like, the fact that Wizards did hear us when we were like, please don't ever do Commander 2018 again. Like, don't ever do that again. They heard us, and they definitely fixed their mistakes. And honestly, I think that Commander 2019 is one of the better ones we've had in a couple of years because it had decent reprints and it had really cool new cards. Like one of the, I think Ixodron got a reprint as
Ixodron
well.
was in the Morph deck, yes.
Yeah, uh, Strionic Resonator got a reprint. I'm
hmm
I'm pretty sure.
And
Um,
they reprinted the dual colored lands, the have to have two
yeah,
basic standard untapped, which I mean
yeah,
those are really good. I play those are like my go when I'm building a mana base, those are obviously go-tos because they have both basic land types. So I can get whenever it says get a like a forest or something, I can
yeah.
target.
But I
Um,
wanna touch on. I'm sorry. Uh, the because like the reprints were great, but I want to touch on the new legendaries that we got.
oh,
We talked
are
about.
you talking about the? You mean just the faces, or you want to talk about all of them?
Well, we don't have to talk about all of them, but there are some really good secondary commanders. So we'll just start with Primal Genesis being the token deck.
Hmm.
We've got Girid Conclave Exile for 2 and Naya, so a red, a green, and a white. When he enters the battlefield, create a 4/4 green Rhino creature token with trample, and whenever he attacks, populate the token enters tapped and attacking. I really liked him. I bought 2 decks out of these. I bought um, Faceless Menace being the Morph Commander and Primal Genesis being the token. And honestly, I've really liked both of them so far. Out of the box, they were great um, to play against one another. And I knew a couple people who also got stuff out of the box, and we all played together, and it was a lot of fun.
Garrett's the best one out of the bunch. When you're sitting down at the table playing them out of the box, it's the strongest deck. And then I also feel like overall, it's probably one of the stronger commanders. Like if you were to like completely scrap the deck and then rebuild, or like take stuff out and upgrade it, I feel like Garrett is probably the strongest deck, because of how aggressive it is. It's very reminiscent of Edgar Markov from Commander 2017. How the Eminence Commander, where whenever you cast vampire spell, you get a 1/1 vampire, and it just like it starts to go so wide that it's like unless a board wipe happens, you're gonna die. But even then, I feel like Yurid's ability to rebuild out of a board wipe is still very good. Um, I would definitely say he's probably the strongest commander that was released in Commander 2019.
Yeah, and I think that the next one is the one I think it's not the best, but I'm really excited about it. I think I am actually going to build a deck around this being Atla Palani Nest Tender for 1 and Naya being the red, the green, and the white. 2 tap, create a 0/1 green egg creature token with Defender. Whenever an egg you control dies, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. I love cheating creatures out. I play Kalia and get to cheat out creatures. I play, Ilharg's in that deck. I get to cheat creatures. I found another deck where I get to cheat out creatures, and I'm so excited.
It's very reminiscent of Mael of the Anima, where you pay the mana and you look at the top 6 cards of your library, and then you get a creature onto the battlefield. This is what Atla Plani is very reminiscent of. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, and I feel like it's kind of. mm, I don't want to, because I feel like Mael is better, but it's like they're similar. They're up there in power level.
yeah. And one thing that I like this deck, I think it's not CEDH worthy, but I think it's just fun and has some interesting interactions with eggs. And obviously, we have a couple of egg cards. We've got Dragon Egg, we have Rock Egg. It's a couple of things like that, and just being able to have a place for those cards that normally just kind of sit in our pile of commons and uncommons is kind of exciting. And it's just I think she's fun, and I think that that's kind of all I have to say on her.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Atla Plani is definitely one of those commanders where you can take it one of two ways. You can take it the fun way, or you can take it like the combo way. I know she has like a combo with Thornbite Staff, where you name, because Thornbite Staff is like it's a combo card, where you have to name a creature type, and I think if you name Egg, then all of your creatures become eggs. I think, or something like that. It's something like that. I'm not really familiar with the combo. Um, but it basically, I think it turns everything into eggs, and then whenever something dies, you're basically gonna get to filter through your deck for all your creatures, because it'll turn all of the creatures in your deck into, well, turn all the stuff onto the battlefield into an egg. So that way, when it dies, you can do the thing and cheat creatures into play. But I definitely feel like she's one of those commanders where you can take it one of two ways depending on your playstyle.
Yeah, and the last one in here is Marcy, Breaker of the Coil for
This
one.
card's bad. This card's
I,
bad.
this card is
This
bad,
card's bad.
but it's the other legendary creature. Your opponents can't cast spells during combat. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, goad each creature that player controls.
I
Which
thought
is
this card was going to be good, and I like for some reason it's still in my geared deck because I still have I bought the geared deck and then I upgraded it, um, and then I played with it for a little bit and I was like, wow, this deck I upgraded it and it's still bad. So then I went and did some readjusting and I was like, oh well, maybe I should actually try Marisi, and I put Marisi in, and then it sits there and does nothing. Like I might goad my opponent's two creatures, but they're like mana dorks or something. Um, I just don't feel like this card's very good.
yeah. I mean, I think he's just too situational, and like and go see and goad is a fun ability, which is until your next turn those so it's
Whenever a
until your next
creature is
turn.
goaded,
Yeah,
it has to attack another player other than you. So when he deals damage, he's gonna goad all of that opponent, like whatever opponent he hits, he's gonna goad all their creatures, and they have to then those creatures have to attack the next combat, and they can't attack you. So it's a very good ability when you think about it, because there was the card from Commander 2017, Disrupt Decorum, where it just says goad all creatures you don't control. So it forces the rest of the table to fight it out because they don't have a choice, but they can't turn on you.
yeah, and like I think goad is cool, and I think Marisi like I think if Marisi had trample, it would make him better because it's his ability is contingent on you doing combat damage to a player, and he's a 5/4. So maybe if he had trample, it would make him a touch better. But for the most part,
He's not evasive at all. And in like when you think about it, in Naya, unless you're giving all of your creatures trample, or they just flat out don't have blockers. Like those are the only two times that he's like really ever gonna make contact. Because if you just attack with Marisi and then like say you're playing with Garrett, but you don't want to attack with Garrett, so you attack with Garrett's Rhino, and then you attack with Marisi, they have blockers. They're obviously gonna block Marisi because they don't want all their creatures goaded. So I mean, like I don't know. Yeah,
yeah,
the card's bad. I think it's bad.
no, you're right there. He's not great. But so that we're gonna move on from that. And that's gonna move us to the Faceless Menace deck, which was Morph. I really like this commander. The face of this deck being Kadena Slinking Sorcerer, one a black, a green, and a blue. Uh, is a Naga Wizard. The first face down creature spell you cast each turn costs 3 less to cast. Whenever a face down creature enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card.
So yeah,
So
I bought this deck, and then I played it once, and I'm like, I don't like this. So I left it untouched. I didn't upgrade it or anything, and it's sitting on my shelf. That way, if anyone ever wants to learn to play Commander, it's the deck that I use to teach people to play Commander.
yeah, I think it's interesting. It's interesting because so that first ability, obviously, whenever you play a morph, it costs 3. So it's literally just your first morph is free, and you can just throw something down on the table as a 2/2, and try and flip it up later, and you know you get to draw a card. So it's literally like pay 0 mana, draw an extra card is sort of what this says.
Yeah, it's in Sultai, so I mean, like, it's good. It's
Yeah,
just good. Like I mean, like because these decks were centered around a certain theme. I feel like this, since it's a morph deck, I feel like this works really like because it's designed to, obviously. Like
right.
you're not playing face down creatures with any other ability that I'm aware of, and like manifest. Um, but I don't. I think manifest is just a thing that happens. I don't think there's no cost associated with manifest. Um, it's good. I mean, like if you want to play morphs, I feel like this is the commander you go to. I don't.
Absolutely.
I feel like this is better than Animar, even though Animar discounts your morphs. Animar doesn't draw you cards. You
I
have to.
mean, I don't know that it's better than Animar on the basis of the more cards you play, the
Well,
less your
okay.
stuff
Well, hold on.
costs
Like,
from it.
but I don't mean like strictly. I mean like
As a
because
morph
like
commander,
as a morph commander, because Animar is a very popular morph commander before Kadena came out. I'm not saying like because there's no way Animar's just 10 out of 10 better than Kadena in every way. But if you're going to compare them as morph commanders, like if you're going to
okay.
build Animar morph versus Kadena morph,
Yeah,
I feel like
you want
Kadeena's better because Kadena draws you cards.
yeah. Next one in here, and because unless you have anything else to say about Kadena,
No, but are you going to go to Riame or are you going to go to Volrath? Because I have very strong feelings about Riame.
I'm gonna go to Volrath first.
Okay.
Volrath, the Shape Stealer, 2, a black, a green, and a blue. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a -1/-1 counter on up to one target creature. And for 1 mana, until your next turn, Volrath, the Shape Stealer, becomes a copy of target creature with a counter on it, except it's a 7/5 and has this ability. I really like
I
Volrath.
like Volrath. I like
He's
clones.
he's really interesting. It makes he's obviously extremely versatile because he can be anything.
And he doesn't lose that power or toughness, which I think is a really interesting thing that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, because it's a clone that maintains its power toughness, and 7/5 is not bad.
No,
Um,
it's not.
I've gotten to use Volrath, and like I want to say that he's situational, but he's basically good in any. You can make him situational in any way you want because you can turn him into. I won't say any creature because it's contingent on it has to have a counter on it, but a lot of
But you're
times like
building the deck in such a way that you're going to take advantage of it. You're building the deck in
exactly.
a way like you're almost building this like -1/-1 counter themed deck because you could build it in like a +1/+1 counter themed deck, but at the same time then you're getting into the area where it's like, well, do I want to put, if I have the ability to, do I want to put +1/+1 counters on my opponent's creatures? I don't think so.
Yeah. I don't think that he really goes in this deck though. I think that
No, he's like, if you're gonna upgrade this deck, he's one of the first things that comes out.
yeah, absolutely. So then we will take it down to Riami and
This card's
Cameron.
bad. This card's bad, bad, bad. This
You wanna
card's
you
bad.
wanna tell us why?
This card.
You just wanna shout at how it's bad.
This
Like
card's
I obviously agree.
How do you even spell Riami? I don't even. I just remember that she's bad. I don't
Yeah,
remember what
I,
she does. She's
I'll
just
I'll
bad.
I'll read it for you.
I got it right here. All right. If a
Oh, you
non-token creature would die, exile that card with a blood counter on it instead. As long as that an exiled creature card with a blood counter on it has flying, Riami, First of the Fallen, has flying, and then it goes on to say that if that card has first strike, double strike, death touch, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, protection, reach, trample, and vigilance, then Riami has that. So it's basically the same text that so if I exile a creature that has vigilance, menace, and flying, um, Riami has vigilance, menace, and flying. This card's bad. This card is uh there's a card from Fate Reforged that does the same thing, and I remember because I was playing a modern deck on Magic Online, and I ran into a deck where it was some guy playing this card, and I want to say it was like it was a black card. It was a Sultai card. I don't. It has this same ability, um, where it's like if this card's exiled or this card in your graveyard, it has if this card in your graveyard has X ability, um, then this card has that ability. It's the same thing as Riami. But this card it basically pigeonholes you into Voltron. You can't build this card any other way because Riami's the one receiving the ability. It's not like Odric that says, well, if one of your creatures has this, all of your creatures have it. It's just Riami. So no matter what, you're basically pigeonholed it into Voltron, and she's not built for that. She's just not like, unless you're gonna give her like evasive, you're gonna build an equipment type thing, like, and then whenever so like not only do you have to play this creature or so like I'm trying to think. So it says whenever a non-token creature would die, that includes your opponent's stuff. So unless you're gonna be like board wiping and then taking all their stuff and then exiling it under Riami, you're still only gonna get. I know this sounds stupid, but even if you manage to hit creatures that have flying, first strike, double strike, death touch, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, protection, reach, trample, and vigilance, I still don't know if that saves this card. I still don't know if even if you exile a card that has each of those keywords and you make Riome the biggest, baddest creature that they've ever seen, I still don't know if this card's good. I doubt it is because you're still basically playing Voltron, and like all it takes is for someone to just be like, okay, everybody has to sacrifice a creature, and then there goes your Riami, and then
I
there
mean,
goes all
yeah,
the cards
and
exiled under it.
that's I don't think that if Riami dies that because they'll still be in exile with a blood counter. So if you bring Riami back,
But
that's
it's you see what I'm saying though. Like it's still the well, all we have to do is kill Riami.
well, yeah, but that that brings into the thing of like that's how all Voltron decks work. So like if on the basis of like Voltron commanders, I do think that he kind of makes it. I think that
I don't
it
think
it's
so.
it's it's fun and interesting, and I won't say it's the best and baddest like Voltron commander on the block,
The reason
but I
that I say he's bad is because you cannot count on your opponents. Number one, you cannot count on your opponents to have have a creature that has or like have several creatures that you're gonna get to exile under Riami with a blood counter on it that has flying, first strike, double strike, yada yada yada. You're just you can't count on that. So that means you have to build your deck in a way that basically means like, well, if I play this card that has Death Touch and then I swing in and it dies, well, cool. Now Riami has Death Touch. But now I have to do that for all these other abilities to make Riami evasive and then smack for commander damage. It's just, I feel like you're going to put in all this work and then it's going to get disrupted. Like they're going to kill
yeah
Riami and you're going to have to keep putting Riami back onto the battlefield from the command zone. And then it turns into the whole vicious cycle of, like we brought up earlier with the slivers. As soon as someone sees that problematic sliver or they see it coming down the line, they're going to be like, nope, get it out of here. Nope.
yeah. So I think with that we can move on to the next deck being Mystic Intellect. And honestly, I haven't played against this deck.
This
Honestly, I
is
think
the
it's like
worst deck out of all four of them by far.
yeah, but Savin the Chronoclasm for 2 and Jeskai being a blue, a red, and a white. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to Savin, and whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell from your graveyard each turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. It's okay. I mean, the theme is obviously flashback. You want to be playing stuff from the graveyard,
I was really
but
disappointed when I saw this deck because
I
flashback is my favorite mechanic of all time, and I was so disappointed when I saw this deck.
yeah, it's not great. Like flashback is a cool ability, but I just don't think they did
See, there's
justice.
a cool combo you can do with Savin, and there's a card called Pariah, and it says it's an enchantment aura, enchant creature. All damage that would be dealt to you is dealt to enchanted creature instead. So like you literally, it's like having a platinum angel on the battlefield. You basically can't lose, like you can't lose to damage anyway. And then I don't think you can lose to infect either because they have to deal you damage, but instead of dealing you damage, they give you the counter. But yeah, so like I don't think they can infect you out with pariah either. So like it's like putting this bubble around you, um, until they remove pariah, and then it's a big thing. Um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like Savin's just bad. I feel like it
Yeah,
kind of suffers from the same problem that the Madness deck has. That there's a lot of cards that have flashback, but not all of them are good. Like
yeah,
there's a lot of cards that have flashback. And then a lot of them or not a lot of them, but some of them you can't even play in this deck to like upgrade because some of them are in black and some of them are in green. Or yeah, most of them are in white, red, and blue. But then there's others like Lingering Souls, the one that makes two spirits, has black in it, so you can't play it in Savin, which uh, I'm just not really hot on Savin. I feel like
No, I definitely agree. And then
yeah.
um, the next, and honestly, this commander is actually I've seen swapped out for Savin for the most part, from what I've heard from people who did get this deck and did play it for a little bit. Elsha of the Infinite for 2 in Jeskai. His prowess, you may look at the top card of your library at any time, and you may cast the top card of your library if it's a non-creature, non-land card, and you may cast it as though it had flash. This card's pretty cool. I
Yeah, this
really
card's
like
pretty good.
Elsha,
This
and
this card is it's like the same thing with like Sensei's Divining Top, Bolus's Citadel. That you get to look at the top card of your library, and then if it's a if it's a instant or sorcery, you can cast it. It's the same premise that it's like you're getting like so you're not just limited to your hand. It's well now I can play stuff off the top of my library. If I have Sensei's Divining Top, well now I can like rearrange the top of my library, and you get to play the whole like um, rearranging the top of your library game.
yeah, I think that this card almost like every single time that I've seen it played, people are like, yeah, I tried it out with Savin and it was fine, but Elsha is just better, just strictly better. And I completely agree that she is really cool, really interesting, and kind of plays with that, top card of your library game that that makes like Sensei's Divining Top just a better card. Like if you play Elsha, you're playing top every single time.
You should be. I mean, you should be playing cards that manipulate the top of your library, like Ponder,
Yeah,
Brainstorm,
exactly.
like all the cards that are like draw a certain amount of cards, put them back. That way, it's like well, like Ponder and Brainstorm, and then like with Serum Visions, and then Preordain. You should be playing all these cards because no matter what, you're gonna get to draw a certain amount of cards, and then look at the top cards of your library, and then either put them on the bottom if they're like lands or something, um, or if it's what you want, you put it back on top, and then you use your mana to cast it off the top. If it, and if you don't have anything good in your hand, uh, it gives you another place to play from. Like out of all the commanders in Commander 2019, I think it's between Girid and Alesha that are the two most powerful.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that you know, I honestly think that when this deck was built, Wizards knew that Elsha was gonna probably end up being the commander that people use the most.
Yeah, because it's
And
just
then
and it's because we can talk about Pramicon now, and it'll explain why Elsha is basically the only choice. Like straight out of the box, if you're gonna play straight out of the box, is why Elsha is the only choice.
yeah, uh, the third commander here, Pramicon Sky Rampart, is just a blue, a red, and a white for 1/5 with Flying Defender. He's a wall. First legendary wall, I think.
First legendary wall.
And as Pramicon, Sky Rampart enters the battlefield, you choose left or right. Each player may attack only the nearest opponent in the chosen direction, and Planeswalker is controlled by that opponent. This card's fun and
It's a cool
goofy.
design. I like it. I don't. It's not a good card, but I like it. It is a cool design.
Yeah, like it's not anything that's game shattering, but it's fun. It makes it so that like if you've got the aggro opponent sitting to your left or right, you just choose the other direction
hmm
and say like you can't attack me.
And well, of course, you make it harder. If you're gonna play the Pramicon deck, you play cards like Propaganda, Ghostly Prison, because then you want to make it like if you're gonna establish this order, and then even if like you're gonna set it so that the aggro player can like only attack you for whatever reason. I don't know why you'd want to do that. Um, but then you play Ghostly Prison and Propaganda, and they have to pay mana to attack you. So you just make it harder for them to hit you.
Yeah, Pramacon's fun. I think that if and maybe there's people with like wall decks that they finally have their wall commander.
I feel like if you were gonna build a wall deck, you'd probably build Arcades
Yeah, you'd build Arcades, but
because
for
it's just better. But
yeah, absolutely. But if you're going
this really
flavor,
reminds me of Aminatu from Commander 2018. Because Aminatu's like ultimate ability is everybody shifts all permanents from like, basically you just pick up your entire battlefield and then you give it to the person on your left or right, whichever way the player chooses.
yeah.
It's really reminiscent of that, and I just think that it's a cool design.
All right, and I think that's gonna kick it to the fourth deck here, Merciless Rage, which is based around Madness, which that ability allows you to cast cards when you discard them for their Madness cost. So first commander here is Anjay Falconwrath
It's
for
pronounced Anya. Hey, it's weird.
Anya. Oh,
It's weird.
Anya Falconwrath. That was my bad. Um, it's so for one, a black and a red, haste, tap, discard a card, draw a card. Whenever you discard a card, if it has madness, untap Anya Falconwrath. It's a 1/3.
This card's pretty good. Despite there not being a lot of cards with madness, it still taps to draw you a card in Rakdos, which I mean, that's pretty good. For it only being 3 mana, and then it's like on turn 3, you get 3 mana, you play Anya, and then you can just immediately tap her. I mean, it's worst case scenario. She's a card you play in a Rakdos deck to draw cards, and you just play her on turn 3, and you wait for the person before you. You wait for their end step. You draw a card on their end step, and then untap her, and then you just wait a rotation of the table. Do it again. I
Yeah,
think she's fine. Like I don't think that compared to the other two that we'll talk about, she's clearly the one that you play. But I like outside of that, outside of like the game that you're gonna play with your friends out of the box. I just don't see a reason to play this deck. It's just not very good.
yeah, and that's so that'll move us to the second commander being Chainer Nightmare Adept. For 2 Rakdos, so black and red. Discard a card. You may cast a creature card from your graveyard this turn. Activate this ability only once each turn. And whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if you didn't cast it from your hand, it gains haste until your next turn. I like Chainer Nightmare Adept. I think she's cool, especially with kind of the madness thought here of because she has the discard outlet, so you go to discard a card. Maybe you're able to pay it for its madness cost, which is generally cheaper. And then you can cast a creature card from your graveyard this turn. So you get to discard something, play it, and now you have mana that you can also play a creature from your graveyard, which it's great. It just gives you another resource to get stuff out onto the battlefield.
I'm trying to remember if I feel like I played against somebody who had a Chainer deck. I'm trying to remember if it was Chainer as the commander or if Chainer was in the 99. I think it's cool. I mean, I don't know. I feel like this one's really hard to evaluate because it's like, okay, I discard a card and then I get to cast a creature from my graveyard, and then it comes back with haste. Or no, whenever you cast non-token creature, whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if you didn't cast it from your hand, yeah. So basically, it's like Unearth from Shards of Alara, where you're gonna pay a cost equal to its converted mana cost, and then get it back for 1 turn. I feel like this card goes more in the 99 as like a reanimation enabler than as like your commander because I just don't know what you're doing in Rakdos that you really need to like reanimate type deal.
Yeah,
Um,
but yeah, I really like her. I've seen a couple of people play her, and she's been pretty cool, and is just a really good enabler of madness. Just being able to discard a card to cast something. Um,
yeah, I think it's a cool I think it's a cool reanimation type card. It's cool. I like the design. I think it's really cool. It's kind of
and
weird, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it's
it's
different.
it's Yeah, which honestly is kind of fun to see, Wizards coming up with new ideas for cards and not just, different things on a stick.
Yeah,
So that's going to lead us to the last commander here, Greven Predator Captain for 3 in Rakdos. Menace when he gets plus X plus O, where X is the amount of life you've lost this turn. Whenever he attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, you draw cards equal to that creature's power and lose life equal to that creature's toughness.
I like this card. I think
He's cool.
it makes for a cool like um I don't know if I'm gonna try this in Aristocrats. I have a copy of the card. I haven't gotten around to it, mainly because I just keep forgetting he exists. Um and also 5 mana is kind of a lot. But and, like when you think about it, so like whenever he attacks, I get to sacrifice another creature, and I'll draw them equal to that creature's power. But in Aristocrats, there's not a lot of creatures that I play with creatures with high power, so I really don't think, at least in the sense that I'm talking about for like an Aristocrats deck for me, it doesn't really make sense to run him because he's not going to draw me that many cards over some other cards that I could play. I still think he's cool. I still think he's playable.
Yeah, he's definitely really interesting. I haven't seen him played as the commander. I just don't think he really makes it there, because
I feel like
he
you can
doesn't.
make a case for him there though because he gets plus X plus O, where X is the number of life you control. So when you think about this, he has built into his card what Riame, as I talked about earlier, does not. He has the ability to get there. He's evasive right off the bat without anything. He has the ability that um basically you say I lose 10 life, he's going to get plus 10 plus O. So he's a 15-5. Greven, like if you were gonna play a Voltron commander, you want to play Greven over Riami because
Oh,
Riami
for
isn't
sure.
gonna get there. You're gonna have to
I
put in
think
so much work to get Riami there, whereas Greven has everything that she doesn't right off the bat.
yeah, I think as the base of a regular commander, yeah, Greven definitely beats out Riami. However, in this Madness deck here, I don't think like once you pull this out of the box, you're gonna want to make him your commander because I think
Oh
in the
no,
tune,
there's no way.
yeah, yeah, to the tune of Madness, he just doesn't really
He
get
yeah he
there.
doesn't do anything with madness, and that's the thing.
Exactly.
And I think that
Yeah,
just
that
wraps it up for about Commander 2019. Um,
so
and
that's
I
gonna take us to Eldraine, I believe.
yeah,
Cameron, you wanna kick off Eldraine to tell us what excited you about it?
when I first saw the spoilers for Eldraine, I saw Embercleave and I was like, that's a cool card. Because I was like, okay, cool. An equipment that basically I'm gonna pay 2 mana for, it gives them double strike, and it basically equips for free. I thought it was really cool. That was really cool. Um, that was one card that immediately grabbed my attention, but we'll get to that because Embercleave's a part of a cycle, so I feel like we should probably start with a cycle. I feel like we should start with the cycle of the Brawl Commanders. Um, the Brawl Commanders immediately grabbed my attention because they did that weird thing where they like previewed like Chulane and then the uh what it was, something Signet or Arcane Signet that taps to add one of your commander's color identity. They previewed that like a month in advance, and it was weird. Um, but yeah, so when they previewed the Brawl Commanders, Chulane was the first one that they previewed, and I immediately took to Chulane because I saw it and I was like, okay, so I'm gonna build a Bant Blink deck, and I did, and it's probably one of my favorite decks to play. Um, and then that's just Chulane right off the top. I think they eventually, when it came around to spoiler season, they started to preview uh, the other ones. The other one that immediately grabbed my attention was the Sir Gwyn for 3 and Mardu for 6 mana total. She has Menace and Vigilance, and whenever a knight you control attacks, you get to draw a card and lose a life. And knights you control have, or equipment you control have knights equip 0. And I'm a sucker for Mardu decks. I love Mardu. So I built a Cirque deck as well. Um, but enough about the decks that I built. Uh, I guess we'll just circle back around to Tulane. Tulane is 2 and a Bant for a. Actually, I don't know what his power and toughness is. Tulane is 2 and a Bant for a 2/4 with Vigilance, and whenever you cast a creature spell, you draw a card, and then you may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. And then he has 3 tap, return target creature you control to your owner's hand. He's really good. I really don't know what else to say other than, I mean, if you're gonna play a Bant based creature deck, I feel like Tulane takes it. He's really good. Um,
Yeah,
I really don't know what else to say on him other than just I feel like he really belongs as a blink commander. Like if you're gonna build a Tulane deck, you should build him as a blink commander. He's very good.
yeah, but and he makes it a little more enticing to play him, as kind of Blink because he's able to return a target creature that you control to its owner's hand. And yeah, Blink just wants to exile and put him back in, without casting them again. But like even if like you're doing that with other stuff, but then one of your big powerhouses that you've been blinking a lot, that getting you a lot of value, gets targeted, you put it back in your hand and they can't touch it anymore, which is great.
Exactly. Um, yeah, I mean, Tulane's good. If you like, you can. I'm not really sure like what other things you could do with Bant, like maybe a Bant control type deck, um, where I don't know. I feel like that's really that's a really difficult sell because I feel like if you're gonna build a Tulane deck, it has to be creature based because you really want to take advantage of that draw and then ramp, which are two like the two things that you really need to be doing in Commander. And I feel like Tulane really embodies the spirit of that, ramping and drawing cards. Um, if you're gonna be build if you build a Tulane deck, it really needs to be creature focused. However you do it, and that's just how, like if you're trying to take full advantage of his abilities, it really needs to be a creature based deck.
Yeah.
So I guess we move on to Cirquin. Cirquin, Hero of Ashvale, 3 Mardu for 6 mana total. Vigilance Menace. Whenever an equipped creature you control attacks, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Equipment you control have Knight 0, which means the equipment have Knight. You can equip equipments you control 2 Knights for 0 mana instead of paying their equip cost for a 5/5. Cirquin's pretty good.
I really
As
like him.
as
I,
far
I think
as
like
as far as Mardu commanders go, she's pretty good.
yeah, I think, for the most part, when you think about Mardu commanders, a lot of times you don't necessarily think about equipment decks. However, I think there is a kind of a good amount of room to play with this because most equipment decks that I've seen are Boros, but
Boros or Mono White or
yeah, but
Selesnya, I guess. I don't know.
I think this is interesting because it gives you access to a third color, but also making your equipment better because they can equip the knights for 0, as he says. And yeah, it makes it a little tougher because you have to include a lot of knights for it to be worth it, but it makes it kind of fun because like you've got a lot of knights, you give them their arms and they go to battle. And
I'll say this: I have a Sir deck. I built it because I thought it. I saw draw a card, and I'm a sucker for drawing cards, especially in Mardu. Because Mardu is my favorite color combination or tricolor combination. And I'll say the biggest thing is that because you have to dedicate so many slots to both knights and equipment, you really put like a tight collar around how many mana rocks you can play because you're not really because you're in Mardu, you really can't ramp because it's basically just Boros plus black, when you break it down. And black can't ramp. I mean, it really can't ramp. And obviously white and red can't either. These are the problems we've been having with Boros for a long time now. Um, because you're dedicating so many slots to each of these two things, because you have to, because that's what the deck wants. You really are really constrained on how many mana rocks you can put in the deck, and it really it really puts it like a chokehold around your deck. And I find myself struggling with not having enough mana to to get Sir Gwyn out to start drawing cards to start doing my game plan, getting in there, smacking face, dealing lots of damage. The mana, like you basically have to cut yourself on knights or equipment no matter which way you go, just so that you can play enough mana rocks to make sure that effectively getting you're effectively getting Sir Gwyn out by turn 5, 6, even 7 at the latest.
Yeah, I definitely agree there, and I think with that we can probably move it over to the next one. One of I think honestly probably one of my favorites out of the four here is Corvold Fey Cursed King.
And this card's
He
really cool. I really like this card.
he's two in Jun, so black, red, green, one of my favorite three color combinations. Um, Flying whenever Corvold Fey Cursed King enters the battlefield or attacks, sacrifice another permanent. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a 1/1 counter on Corvold and draw a card, and he's a 4/4.
And it's like we talked about Bantu earlier. We see this same thing where it's like sacrifice a permanent. And like even though you don't want to be sacrificing your lands, if like you have an enchantment or something, or like someone's put a curse on you, you can sacrifice that. It's like it's that sacrifice another permanent. The word permanent, it gives it versatility.
Yeah, and I actually played him a little bit when he first came out, and he was really fun just out of the box. Like this deck was really cool, really interesting. I had a little bit hard of time with it because I wasn't able to pump out enough permanents as quickly as I would have liked to because I only played it a little bit. But just for like the few times that I played him, I did enjoy him, and I think that you could build around him and make something really like interesting for your play group.
hmm
And
Um,
he gets big really quick.
he really, yeah, he gets big really quick. So not only is he like big, he's a big beefy like beater, and he's flying, so he's evasive, so that's even better. But it's whenever you sacrifice a permanent, comma. So it triggers every time you sacrifice a permanent, and like Jund is like really good at like token decks, kind of like Selesnya. So he really lends himself to like a token aristocrat type um deck, in the sense that, well, if I have a sack outlet, let's say I have a Viserys here. So every time I sacrifice a creature, I scry one, and I have three tokens. Well, I sacrifice three. Um, I sacrifice my three tokens. I not only get to scry three, but now I'm putting 3+1/+1 counters on Corvold. Now he's a 7/7, and I draw three cards, which that seems really good to me. I mean, I feel like Corvo he lends himself to the +1/+1 counter strategies. He lends himself to the aristocrat strategies. Um, he lends himself to the theft type strategies where like I talked about my Judas deck earlier, where you can play those active treason effects, take your opponent's stuff, sacrifice him, you get to draw cards, you make Corvold bigger. Um, he's just good. He's good. No
Yeah,
matter really which way you want to take him, he's got a lot of avenues open to him.
yeah, he's extremely versatile, which is something that we really like to see in our commanders of like something that you can take and make it your own. That's what commander players love to do.
He really lends himself to a lot of different strategies, and I think that's why he's very popular.
Yeah, and that's I think gonna take us to our last one here. I believe this is Alela Artful Provocator for one, a white, a blue, and a black. It is a fairy warlock with flying, death touch, and lifelink. Other creatures you control with flying get +1/+0, and whenever you cast an artifact or enchantment spell, create a 1/1 blue fairy creature token with flying.
I like this card. I think it's a great design.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
I feel like it's kind of awkward. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's a little weird because like it it really just wants you to play flying creatures and then also play artifacts and enchantments, which is a little odd, but like for the most part, it's pretty cool.
It strikes me that it's like you really want to go one way or the other. I feel like mixing them, I like mixing artifacts and enchantments, trying to build a deck that has both of them in the sense that like you're gonna have like either an equal amount to try to do stuff. I feel like you're gonna make things more complicated than they need to be. I feel like you need to pick one or the other, artifacts or enchantments, and then stick to that. Make sure you do it really well. Pump out tokens, swing in, and kill them.
Yeah, the one thing that kind of struck me when I first read this card is out of its three colors, it has like the keyword ability of each of its colors. You know, flying coming from blue, death touch from black, and lifelink from white. Like they really, I think they knew when they built this card that it was a little underpowered compared to the other three, and gave it the extra keywords to try and power her up.
I like when Wizards does that. I like when they see a card and they're just like, oh, they see it's like three colors and it's like, oh, we're gonna give you one ability from this and this. I think it's neat. It like really shows like what colors do what, and uh it's really kind of expressive of the color pie, and at like aesthetic wise, it's kind of cool. Um I also feel like she's just. I feel like these four brawl commanders were better than most of the legendary creatures in the set.
Honestly, I agree.
Like
I think
I'm so surprised how powerful these four commanders are.
I mean, when Wizards built him, they knew that Commander players were gonna like him. Like it wasn't just to try to help Brawl get off the ground. They built him for Commander players too.
Of course, I mean it's standard commander. I mean
Yeah,
it's
true.
like it's commander's younger brother brawl, and that's what it is. It's just commander with a smaller card pool. So I feel like there's no reason why it should be there should be no reason why they're underpowering these other than for the sake of like because these cards are legal and standard, so other than for the sake of saving the standard environment, but then that's why they make them overcosted, whereas in like commander formal, um we can afford to like play a 5-6 mana commander, whereas it's a little slow for standard.
Yeah. So I think that's gonna be able to move us straight into the actual set itself. Unless was there any other cards that jumped out at you in the Brawl set?
None that I can think of. Yeah,
All right,
no.
let's jump into the set then.
um let's start talking about the cycle. um
The
Actually,
artifact one or the
yeah,
legendary?
I was gonna say like what is that cycle called? There's no really name for it. It's the legendary artifact cycle, the cycle of the courts in Eldraine. I guess we'll start with the white one, Circle of Loyalty. I gotta find it first.
Yeah. I'll read it for you here. It is 4 white and a white. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each knight you control. Creatures you control get +1/+1. Whenever you cast a legendary spell, create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance. And for 3 a white and tap, create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance.
I feel like it's
And
really mana intensive.
yeah, that was kind of the first thing that I was gonna say. But obviously it does have this spell costs 1 less to cast for each knight you control. So maybe you have 4 white and you're able to put this out for 2 white mana.
And that's the thing that I that's actually one of the problems that I have with it. Um, and why I don't play it in my Sir Gwyn Knights deck is because of the fact that Sir Gwyn, you're so like cut on either side between knights and having enough knights and having enough equipment to make things matter, that Circle of Loyalty, I'd rather play an equipment and put it on Sir Gwyn or another knight or something and get in there and draw cards than take a turn off playing the Circle of Loyalty just so that they get an anthem effect when the equipment that I'm putting on might give them +3/+3 or whatever. And so rarely, I mean, I'm trying to think in Sir Gwyn. I think Sir Gwyn's a legendary that I play And if you play the 3 legendary monocolored knights from the set, like in a knights deck, then maybe you're talking. You can get the discount. I feel like the discount's kind of clunky. I don't like this card. I feel it's mana intensive on in both senses. Like I don't feel like you're ever gonna get it for that big of a discount. You're paying for it's the same problem that we talked about earlier that Oketra has, or that Oketra from the original Amonkhet set has, where you're paying 3 mana or you're paying 4 mana just to make a 2/2.
Yeah. Honestly, I think out of all of the legendary artifacts, I think this is the worst one.
It is the worst one by far. Um, yeah, it's just not it's not good. Well, it's good. It requires so much setup that I don't even know if the payoff is worth it because you are
Yeah.
getting a payoff. Every time you cast a legendary spell, you get to make more knights, and then they obviously get bigger, and then you can obviously use the circle of loyalty to make more knights. So you are getting a payoff. I just don't think it's worth it
Yeah.
in any sense.
I think that'll kick us to the next one here. Uh, it's our blue one, the Magic Mirror, 6 and triple blue. Um, this spell costs 1 less to cast, 1 colorless less to cast. For each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard, you have no maximum hand size. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a knowledge counter on the Magic Mirror, then draw a card for each knowledge counter on the Magic Mirror. I think this is really cool.
I think it's a really cool design. I feel like the instant and sorcery in your graveyard is a much easier ask than having knights on the battlefield. And I know that sounds weird, but I mean, like, the Circle of Loyalty, you're only putting it in a knight tribal deck. And right now, I don't really know of any other knight commanders other than the girl or the lady from Dominaria, the white black one, that makes knights. Maybe it goes in that deck more so than the Sir Gwyn deck. Um, but anyway, I feel like the instant of sorcery in your graveyard is a much easier ask. However, um, the at the beginning of your upkeep, put a knowledge counter on the magic mirror. I feel like by the time you're gonna get to cast this for 4 or less mana, that knowledge counter you're gonna be putting on it means nothing. You know what I mean? Like by the time you're gonna be able to fill up your graveyard with either 5 to 6 instant or sorceries, someone's either going to have an answer for this. So as soon as you slam this on the battlefield, they're going to be like, well, the no maximum hand size, like there's other cards that do that, like Tashana Voice of
Yeah.
Thunder or Thought Vessel, that are they give you no maximum hand size, or Praetor's Council or whatever. Um, I feel like they're gonna see that whoever's sitting across the table from you, by the time that you're gonna get this out, they're gonna have an answer, and then they're gonna say to themselves, "Well, maybe I save this answer for that. Maybe I let him draw 2 cards, and then you shut it down. You're never gonna get to draw more than like 2 to 3 cards off of this."
Yeah, I think for the most part, that's you're probably right. I think, maybe you get an instance where you're able to play a couple early game, like maybe a brainstorm and some other stuff that just manipulate the top of your deck, draw you some cards, whatever, and then you're able to put this out early turn 3, turn 4, and then you can try and get as many knowledge counters as you can before someone has an answer. Maybe you even proliferate or something like that if you put this with a Traxler or something like that, I guess. But for the most part, you're right. You'll get a couple of draws off of it, probably like two
Before
or
someone
three.
starts to see the snowball forming, and then it's
Yeah,
gone.
yeah,
It's just it's a cool design. I feel like the only way that you're playing this is if you have a consistent way to cheat it out early in the game with like a master transmuter, which is like you pay a blue mana and you tap the master transmuter to I think you swap an artifact from your hand in the battlefield, or Thran Temporal Gateway from Dominaria, where you put a historic permanent onto the battlefield for 4 mana. Um, I feel like the only way that you're playing this card is if you reliably have a way to cheat it out
Yeah,
without the discount.
yeah,
Because then I feel like then maybe you'd be able to make up for the deficit before people start to like notice that it's drawing you a lot of cards, and then obviously stop you from doing that. I don't think it's good. Uh, yeah, I just don't think it's very good.
All right, that'll take us to the next one, the Cauldron of Eternity. Now, this one is by far the most expensive one we got here for 10, a black and a black. However, it has the probably the best or one of the better discounting. Here is this spell costs 2 less to cast for each creature card in your graveyard. Whenever a creature you control dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library. And then for 2 in a black, you tap, pay 2 life, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery.
I mean, it's okay. Um, the decks you want to play this in are the graveyard decks, but then you're gonna get the value out of it, but then they go to the bottom of your library. So it's like this weird contradictory thing where it's like, well, I'm in the graveyard deck, I want to play this, but then when the creatures that I'm bringing back from the graveyard die, they don't go back to the graveyard where I can get them back out. They go to the bottom of my library where I can't interact with them.
Yeah, I like honestly, I think that this would be so much better if it didn't have that middle text.
It would be a lot more
Honestly.
powerful. It would
I
be a lot more powerful. Um, it might be the best one. If it didn't have that middle line of text, it'd probably be the best one.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that middle line of text where it says when they die they go to the bottom of your library. Because I don't really know of any other deck you want to play this in other than a graveyard deck where you're trying to get stuff back. But then the stuff that you get back, if it goes back to your graveyard, you don't care because you can just bring it back again. This stops you from doing that. It's like a one-time thing. So not only
Yeah.
do you have to be super careful when you play it, but then what happens after you play it. Uh,
I will say I feel like it's kind of meant to be sort of a late game, like, you know, you get the stuff, the powerful stuff out real quickly and then end the game. And
I could see how it's a late game finisher, but at the same time,
but
uh,
I don't know. It's just not that great.
it's not that great. I don't really see this being played in any graveyard deck. I do know of one person who plays it. It's not in a graveyard deck. It's in a Yuriko the Tiger Shadow deck. Do you know what Yuriko does?
Yeah.
For those who don't, out there in the audience, Yuriko, whenever Yuriko deals damage, you basically get to flip the top. I think it's based on how much damage she deals. You get to flip that many cards off the top of your library, put them into your hand, um, and then she deals damage equal to that card's converted mana cost. And I'm gonna look her up because I'm really not sure, and I'd like to get it right. I know she has ninjutsu, so you can ninjutsu her from the command zone. Whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top card of your library, put that card into your hand, each opponent loses life equal to that card's converted mana cost. So not only when she does, but whenever a ninja deals damage. And I know I have a friend who plays a Yuriko, the Tiger Shadow deck, and plays this card in it just to slug people for 12, or slug the whole table for 12. And, I mean, it's funny when it happens. He,
I
he
mean, it
he
hurts,
never
but
plays it. He never plays it. He does it to slug the table for 12, and it hurts when it happens, but it's also kind of funny. Um, yeah, I think we can move on to the one that the second one, the one that I'm second most excited to talk about.
all right, you go for it.
Okay, so I know I mentioned it at the beginning. Embercleave. So for 4 red, you get a legendary artifact equipment with Flash. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each attacking creature you control, and when it enters the battlefield, it just automatically attaches to a creature. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, has double strike and trample. And then if it becomes unattached from that creature, you can equip for 3. This card is really good. Now, normally combat tricks in Commander aren't very good. However, when you're getting um when you're getting like a permanent combat trick, you're gonna use this as a combat trick. So say it's like middle of the game and you just kind of swing with a big, something big that has like trample, say, or is evasive in some manner. Um, actually, no. Let me retract that. You just swing with two medium-sized creatures. Well, then I'm gonna pay 4 for Ember Cleave, attach it, attach it to whichever one, and then it's gonna give it a +1/+1, and then double strike, so it's gonna deal double damage, and then trample, and now boom, that creature's evasive.
Yeah, and the other thing, like double strike is not only is it going to deal double damage, but it also enables first strike. So that if they're trying to send a blocker at it, that blocker is most likely going to get killed, and and
This
then the
this
damage is
card's
also going to come over.
I
Yeah,
think
but I
this
really like
card's
Ember Cleave.
um because normally in like Commander, combat tricks would be really bad, but since it's more or less an equipment being used as a combat trick, I feel like it's okay. It's pretty okay. In that sense. But other than that, I love this card. It's great.
All right, the last one here on the list, which is the one honestly I love this one the most out of all of them. We got the Great Henge for 7, a green and a green. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Tap, add 2 green, you gain 2 life, and whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on it and draw a card. There is so much on this card that is good.
When I first acquired this card and went to go play it, I don't remember if you were in this game or not. I thought it said it cost X less to cast, where X is the total, or where X is the total power of all creatures you control. And I tried to play it for 2 mana. Uh,
Oh
it didn't
man.
work, but regardless, it's still really good.
Honestly, I think if it was combined power, it would actually be too good almost.
Oh, it would be much more broken than it is, because then you'd basically always be paying 2 mana for it.
Yeah.
It'd be
I
the
mean,
most consistent.
yeah, absolutely. Like this card's like it has so much that it can do. It gives you mana, it gains you life, it gives your creatures +1/+1 counters, and it draws you cards. Like it's so good. I know someone who has, or my brother has a bear deck, so it's literally just bear tribal.
Yeah,
But he
Bear
put he
Force
put
one.
this
Yeah.
Yeah, he put this in here or in there, and like it's really cool because he taps 2 mana. Maybe 1 or 2 more gets a bear, gains life. The bear gets a +1/+1 counter, and then he puts something else into his hand that he's able to cast later, and it just keeps like it. The mana lets you put stuff out of your hand, and then it replenishes your hand, which I just think is really good.
Now I'm gonna argue against putting this in like every green deck, and I mean like I don't mean that like some there's like green black graveyard decks. This obviously doesn't go in there. This has to go in a creature based deck. If you're
Oh,
not in a
absolutely.
creature based deck, it is not going to be as good. Like yeah, you're still like say you get to cast it for 5 mana. You just spent 5 mana on a mana rock that does net you 2 mana and 2 life, but then if you're not playing creatures to take advantage of the +1/+1 counter, you're not drawing a card. Um, and that's just the biggest like disclaimer about it, is that you really need to be in a creature deck, a creature based deck, in order to really take advantage of the Great Henge in the way that you want, in the way that you
Yeah,
really want to.
but I think that's also, kind of obviously Wizards always trying to play kind of the balancing act with their cards. And I think that's, one of the things that really does balance out this card is it makes it so, yes, it has some stuff that it can do without creatures, can net your mana, net your life, but it put it in a spot where it's not just always giving you value. It makes it so you have to be doing certain things to be getting the cards, and obviously in the +1/+1 counters on the creatures as well.
And that's the other thing though is yeah, yes, it has to go in a creature deck, but at the same time, it almost doesn't go in any creature deck because it's X less to cast where X is the greatest power. So you want to make sure you have a lot of power. Like you could be playing a token deck, um, like say like an elf ball deck, and like you have all these 1/1s, but that means you're still paying 8 mana for this thing, or you're still paying 10. No, you're paying, yeah, you're paying 8 mana for this thing. Um, if one is the greatest power among creatures you control. So it doesn't go in every creature deck. It needs to go in a creature deck that has like high powered creatures, or at least decently high powered creatures. With 4 power, 5 power, and up to really get the discount on this because I don't know. I feel like you might be taking, because this thing's is a very big target because of the value that it represents. So I feel like if you're not getting it for 4 or less mana, you shouldn't be playing it
Yeah.
because it's good. This thing is gonna draw like a target right on your forehead. They're gonna come gunning for the Great Henge, and you really want to be have your deck built to take advantage of it and get the discount, draw some cards. And I think with that we can move on to some of the other cards that were in the set. Um, I guess we can move on to the 3 planeswalkers that were in the set. And yeah. Oko. Oko. Aaron, you're an elk now. Congratulations.
Thank you. And honestly, like Oko has taken the Magic community by storm. I almost feel like if you don't already know about Oko, what are you doing? Or you might be living under a rock, maybe in a cave with some
Or
goblins. But
maybe he turned you into an elk and you can't speak.
this is true too. That could happen, and he's just so good.
This is one of those planeswalkers that if you see it at the table, it's kill on sight. This
Absolutely.
is not one of those planeswalkers that you can just be like, oh, well, he's going to make a food token. Yeah, I guess it's okay. No. It's the same. He's going to, like, so whoever is in control of Oko, as soon as you play your commander, you can be like, oh, I don't like your commander. It's an elk now. And then, obviously, if they're playing Oko in their deck, they probably have a way to um, manipulate the loyalty counters on him, so that way he never like they never really have to make the food. They can always just use him as removal, and he's really just kind of like one of the best forms of removal, taking
Well,
away like literally all the abilities of a creature and just making it into a vanilla 3/3.
I mean the thing is like you never have to create a food token because his elk is a +1, and
Yeah,
it's like literally you just get to a lot of planeswalkers like Garrett Cursed Huntsman for example. His removal it's his -3 destroy target creature draw a card. Like most of the time, whenever it's any kind of removal, unless it's like a blink effect, it's generally a minus effect.
yeah. And like Garrett Cursed Huntsman, like I guess we can move on from Oko because Oko's just good. And I mean, if you're in Simic colors that can play him, I mean, and you have the budget to afford him, I guess, play him.
Yeah, you blame.
Um, Garrett Cursed Huntsman, 4 black green for a 5 loyalty planeswalker, where his 0 creates 2/2 black wolves. That whenever this creature dies, put a loyalty counter on each Garrett you control. Um, it makes up for the whole not having a plus ability. Um, and then it's like you said, the -3 just does the thing that Garrick does. Garrick's the huntsman, and he kills planeswalkers and creatures, obviously. The one thing that I really must say is notable about Garrett Cursed Huntsman is that the destroy target creature says draw a card. That strikes me as odd. Doesn't it strike you as odd?
I mean a little bit, but I think if it didn't draw you a card, it'd probably just be a -2. And I think that you know honestly, black green
Well, it's not
getting
that
to draw
black
a
green
card,
like can't draw you cards. It's just
but
like
it
when you look
doesn't
at some of
normally
the
on
other Garricks,
planeswalkers.
when you look at some of the other Garricks though, it's like, well, draw cards equal to like the power or the greatest power among creatures you control. I don't know. It just seems weird to me that like his destroy target creature ability draws you a card. I'm not
Yeah,
complaining. I'm just saying it's just kind of odd.
yeah. But honestly, I really liked Garrett. I'm glad Garrett came back.
Oh, I love Garrett.
Honestly,
Garrett's my favorite green
he's
planeswalker.
he's really cool, and I think that these abilities that he has here are very Garrick. Obviously, we've seen him pump out wolves before. He's doing that again, and I really like because I have a Super Friends deck. I really like the when this creature dies, put a loyalty counter on each Garrick you control. Because like for us Commander players, like if you're playing a Super Friends deck with green in it, 9 times out of 10 you're playing a couple of Garricks.
You're playing
Um,
at least.
at least two, maybe
I'd say
three.
even at least this Garrick if you're in green black,
Yeah,
like 4 color Super Friends or even 5 color Super Friends. I guess. I mean, you're probably playing at least this Garrick in at least what's Apex Predator.
yeah. At least Apex Predator and man, I gotta think about all of the Garricks, but like you're running at least two Garricks because you have your other black green one, and you have your other like Garrick Wildspeaker. Um, I think is the other one that I'm thinking of
You're talking about
off
the
the
one
top.
that untaps lands.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that like you. Yeah, Garrick. Those are the two that I was thinking of. Garrick Apex Predator, which has four abilities, and which is kind of odd for planeswalkers who normally have three. But and then Garrick Wildspeaker, who untaps your lands. Like you are normally running a couple of Garricks, which is really nice too. That you have wolves that like if you play them all at once, maybe you're plussing them, maybe you're minusing them, but you can sustain your Garricks with your wolves,
exactly. Yeah.
which is just it's really cool. And it's I think when they made that, they had Commander players and like Super Friends players in mind of
I
like
feel like yeah, I feel like just by
because
like there's only this is the only Garrick in standard. So like when you read it, it's like well, you kind of have to. It's either for commander players or modern players who can play some of the other Garricks.
exactly. So
Um,
we have one more Planeswalker in this set. It's the twins, the Royal Scions, and one a blue and a red. They're +1, draw a card, then discard a card. And then plus they have a second +1 of target creature gets +2/+0, gains first strike and trample until end of turn, and then they're -8. Draw 4 cards when you do the Royal Scion deals damage to any target equal to the number of cards in your hand. I
it
don't love them.
it's I'd say medium, like just medium.
Yeah, I think the second ability is nice, especially in red blue when a lot of times you don't have red I guess does, but like a lot of times you don't have the best ability to boost your creatures.
I this is more of a constructed like 60 card format type of card
Yeah,
because like in commander I don't know if I really want to be committing a planeswalker to the board that's going to die, that's only going to get me to loot where I draw and discard a card, and then I don't really know if I'm in a like in red blue unless you're in like teamer when you're creature based, you really don't need to target a creature to give it a buff, and then give it 2 keyworded abilities, and then you really should never evaluate a planeswalker and its ultimate ability. So, I mean, if you get there, then yeah, I mean it's pretty good in Commander because if you combine it with like a no maximum hand size thing and you have like 10 cards in your hand, well, cool. Now you draw 4 and deal them 14. So I don't know. I just feel like it's just deeply medium. Like I guess looting every turn's not terrible, but I don't know if
yeah.
I want to commit a planeswalker to the board just so it can be killed, and then not get to loot every turn.
Is there
I can think of so many other cards I'd rather play over this.
yeah? Is there anything else in Eldraine that excites you that
Um,
think?
what's it called? I can't remember. The questing beast. This
Oh yeah,
card,
yeah.
this card is nuts. Um, I gotta look it up. Hold on,
Here,
cause
I got you.
all right.
He's 2 green, vigilance, death touch, haste. Questing beast can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. combat damage that would be dealt by creatures you control can't be prevented. Whenever Questing Beast deals combat damage to an opponent, hold on, it deals that much damage to target planeswalker that player controls.
Now, this card was clearly designed for like 60 card, standard, modern, whatever, your 60 card format.
Especially like standard right now, having War of the Spark have a bunch of planeswalkers that are out. Having being able to deal that much damage to target planeswalker, like it wants to deal damage to planeswalkers.
Exactly. But the thing is like when you read it, like can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. That's going to come up way more than you think. Like if you're playing against a token deck or something, they're going to have a lot of 1/1s and like you're going to force the block you're going to force them to block with their bigger creature, and then the death touch of Questing Beast is going to knock that creature out. If for some reason they're playing fog effects, it's like if I pump up my Questing Beast and then get in there for the damage, they can't prevent it. They can't fog and prevent combat damage. And then if like you brought up like with the Super Friends deck, like this kills Super Friends decks.
Yeah,
This is like if you're in green and you have a problem with a Super Friends deck in your meta, this is the card you need to get and sideboard into your deck. Even though we don't have sideboards in Commander, but if you're just looking to particularly uh, like just pound the Super Friends player, pound their face in, this is the card to do it.
yeah, and I like because one of the things with Super Friends is a lot of times, you know, they obviously they don't have a lot of creatures because those slots are for planeswalkers, and a lot of times the creatures that planeswalkers make are low power. It's a couple of 1/1s, or in Garrick's case, it's 2/2/2s. Those can't block Questing Beast.
Exactly.
And then that forces you to maybe throw your commander in front of it, and so like for my sake, that'd be Atraxa, and yeah, like both Questing Beast and Atraxa are gonna die, but what's kind of harder of a hit there? Atraxa dying, Questing Beast. Like Questing Beast, you're I guess it kind of depends on what deck it's in. If it's in a deck that like green black recursion, you're gonna be able to bring it back. And yes, I can bring back Atraxa, but it might take me a little bit longer because commander tax and whatnot.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like we can just go to like the honorable mentions from Eldraine. Um, Emery, Lurker of the Lock, is a good artifact. Is just good in artifact decks. Blue artifact decks. She says she's 2 and a blue for a 1/2 Merfolk Wizard. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control, and when she enters the battlefield, you take the top 4 and put them in your graveyard, top 4 of your library, put them in the graveyard, and then you can tap her, choose target artifact in your graveyard, and then you can cast it this turn. It's just good at if someone blows up your artifact, you can tap her and then pay mana and get it back. Uh, I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. She's good in artifact decks, and I don't think anyone would. I don't think anyone would like tell you not to play her. She's pretty good. Um, Another one is a Fabled Passage, where it's basically just a land that says tap, sacrifice it. It's a fetch land. You get to search for your library for any basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped. But if you have 4 or more lands when you crack the Fabled Passage to go find your basic land, that land enters untapped instead. So it gets better as the game goes on. Um, I can't think of any other. I guess I should highlight this one too. Feyburrow Elder. 1 green white for a 0/0 vigilance tree folk druid. When it enters the battlefield, it gets +1/+1 for each color among permanents you control, and then you can tap it to add a color for add it tap to for each color you control, color among permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color. So it's really good in like 5 color decks because it taps for Wooburg. Um, but beyond that, I don't believe that there is any other cards in Eldraine that we need to highlight.
Yeah.
There's a cycle of monocolored commander or monocolored legendaries. None of them are that good. Certainly nowhere near the level of um, certainly nowhere near the level of the Brawl commanders.
I don't know. There's one kind of honorable mention that it's Dance of the Mancy, or
I think it's
I think
Mance, Dance of the Mance.
yeah. Yeah. For X, a white and a blue, return up to X. Target artifact and/or non-aura enchantment cards, each with converted mana cost X or less, from your graveyard to the battlefield. If X is 6 or more, those permanents are 4/4 creatures in addition to their other types. If you're running like an enchantment heavy deck or something like that, and it's late game, you got a lot of them like in the graveyard or something, and you just hit X for like the max number that you need to get all of your enchantments and just pump out not only these enchantments, but also just a bunch of 4/4s. Like, that's pretty cool. Like that, I think in an enchantment deck, like that's pretty cool. And it's probably the only other real honorable mention that I could think of.
Yeah, and I think that with that, that kind of closes out Eldraine as far as our favorite cards from the set go.
Yeah, and I think with that being said, that is going to kind of close out our 2019 review. We will be having a 2020, like, looking forward into the future episode pretty soon, so we'll be watching out for that. But that's gonna be it for now. I'm Aaron.
I'm Cam.
We'll see you guys next time.